Hello everybody and welcome to another live stream. So today's live stream is going to be a bit different. First of all, I'm going to give some updates, but I also want to show you a current 3D print that I'm working on. It's actually more of a functional print, less of an artistic print. It's actually for my own production. So I'm going to actually walk you through it. I'm not going to actually show you the designs because it won't really make a difference. You're going to have to design your own if you're doing your own coasters. So let me just turn off this title screen here. So on the top left hand side, what you can see is I'm actually printing essentially a stand to hold my molds and level them out before I actually pour the casting material. So although I'm doing a lot of designs for coasters and other stuff like that right now, the coasters are actually pretty much ready to go. The one that you can see right now is Cthulhu. Well, if you're a D&D fan, he might have a resemblance to an Illithid, but it is Cthulhu. And there is a couple of other ones that are also completed. So the zombie one I actually just recently finished. Orcus is actually completed as well. And the dragon. There is actually a couple of other versions that are also completed. I'm just not showing you guys yet what they're going to actually look like as a final piece. But the print that I'm doing right now is actually more of a functional print. It is a print that's designed to actually level out the surface that I'm actually putting my templates for casting. So one of the issues I ran into was that as I was casting things, it would either wobble or it would not be level. And what that caused for me is it caused the final cast to actually not be level. There is workarounds to it, and I did find some workarounds for sure. But ideally, I would prefer to have from the get-go a perfect casting. So like I said, I did find some workarounds, but hopefully this is actually going to solve some of those issues. This is essentially going to be a test print for this stand, and the way it's designed is I'm actually going to have some screws that are going to go on the extremities, and I'm going to pop my my castable piece in it so that I can level that out and then pour the stuff in. So I do have a leveler that I will obviously need to use for this. Now, that being said, there's the possibility that I might run into a couple of issues. Oh, actually, I just realized I didn't have the pop-out chat here. Hold on a second, guys. Yeah, let's get that back out here. So there is a couple of issues that could very much arise. One of the main ones is that shifting could occur, and that would actually cause quite a few problems during the casting process, which means I'm going to be pouring it in a very awkward location. Essentially, because I'm in not a very well ventilated area, I actually have to do this all essentially blowing out the air of my little tiny apartment window. So that, you know, having fumes and all is not a good idea. So yeah, proper ventilation is an issue. I have to do it in a specifically tight area. So having something that's modular that I can move around would actually be really awesome. But I am thinking about changing this model slightly. I may actually add some form of interconnectivity, but I need to find a way of doing it that essentially I could anchor just the screws into it and not have the rest of it wobble around. So there's a couple ways to do that. I might actually take some extra bolts that I have for these screws and then put them into essentially a secondary resting area so that I can still screw into it and still modify it. However, it might be a bit more limiting. That does present some potential issues as well, though. So the other method is I could actually add some rubber feet essentially to this. I am casting with rubber. That's one method. That would be a more complicated method. The easier way would actually be to 3D print with a a less slippery surface, the little nubs. And I do have TPU with that. It might actually work, but it may not be rubbery enough. So we'll have to check that out for sure. So now that the updates are... Oh, actually there is one more update. The Kickstarter has been removed. Mainly because I was highly recommended to go a different route. So in future, I am hopefully going to be starting a Shopify account. I will definitely include more updates if that occurs. However, I would like to know what your feedback is as to some of these ideas. Now, I've been looking into stickers just because they're relatively low cost items, but I want to offer something a bit nicer. So metallic based stickers with some of the concept art for certain items or finished pieces. So that's actually one thing that I'm thinking about including as a product along with these coasters. What will also be included, because I did remove the Kickstarter, is those keychains. It's very likely I might actually end up limiting the number of those. So essentially it's however many I can make within a given certain period of time, but I'm not going to rush anything for that. In the works, there is also another different type of keychain. Those are actually finalized almost entirely. I essentially just need to do final molds, do one more last test batch before I can call them completed and ready. These are actually keychains that have a dice on them, so there's specific dice, the D20 and a D6. So your standard dice that you see for almost every standard gambling game is the D6. And then the D20, which is actually normally used for D&D and a couple of other games as well. A lot of role-playing games. Also Magic the Gathering, I believe, also uses those dice. I've played it a couple times, and we did use those dice as well. So those are some things that have definitely been in the work for quite some while, and are actually pretty much ready to go. I have pretty much settled on the coloring for these coasters. So like I said, there's a couple. These are just a couple of them. So far I have 6 designs in total, and I'm going to probably limit it to that. So Orcus, Zombie, Cthulhu, and obviously the dragon. There is the werewolf, the vampire, that's also pretty much completed. I believe there's one last one. Give me a sec, I'm just going to check to see what the last one is. There is 6 in total. I've been working on a lot of different products, so it's kind of hard to keep track after a while. Yeah, no, I think that's all of them. If not, you might see an extra one on there. That's fine. But yes, these are the designs that I currently have ready. Now, while that's printing, unfortunately this print will not have enough time to fully complete. It is a fairly long print. It's a 6-hour print. And that's printing at 0.24 nozzle height, which is pretty much the maximum that's recommended for a 0.4 nozzle. It's still about a total of a 6-hour print, and currently, let me just check where it's at now. We are currently at 2 hours and 42 minutes. So like I said, I don't think you guys want to hang around that long for this print. It's also not going to be too exciting. Essentially, it's just designed to hold these coasters in place while I work on them. I'm just going to actually just start editing this image because I have to actually ready it for my shop anyway, so it allows me to get a bit more work done at the same time. So I'm just going to mute myself, but you'll be able to see this, and you'll also be able to see the live video feed for the print. So what I'm doing is I do personally prefer working with multiple artboards. That is a preference that I have actually developed over time. Um, Let me just save this as a new file here. Um, I know I did say I wasn't going to talk, but this is actually interesting information, especially if you're trying to design some stuff. So, coaster. Okay. So, let's see if it allows me to do this here. I have to admit, I do appreciate how artboards work in this software. It's actually fairly functional. And also the cropping tool, it doesn't actually physically crop anything, which is nice. So the one thing I'm noticing too is I'm definitely going to have to make these all the same size, so let's just add them all to the same thing for now. I can separate them after, so it's not a big deal. If I choose to, I might actually just keep them separate. There we go. These photos, by the way, are taken with a very old camera on the phone, without any extra lenses or anything like that. The only thing that I did do is I did get a light box, a really cheap one, just to help with the lighting, and it does make a big difference because it makes everything a lot clearer. However, the images still turn out quite a bit darker. So I'm still going to have to actually do some editing to make sure that it is as clear as it can be. Because when I was actually taking this photo, the background was actually pure white. However, as tends to be the case, a lot of these images turn out darker once you take a photo. So, let's see here. May have to bring this, let's see, into Affinity Photo. Don't know if there, I don't think there's levels involved. No, okay. This is actually something I haven't had to do yet. Edit in photo, there we go. So I actually need to see, compare it to the original coaster, see what the lighting actually needs to be. Actually, I only need to change the white balance apparently. The rest of it is good. I'm going to see if I can show this to you guys on camera. That means I'm going to be going in front of the print, however. We'll see how that shows up. But this is, I don't know if you can see it. Not really. Just too dark. Yeah, I might have to try to show it to you guys after. Anyway, that's actually the zombie coaster. That actually looks really close, so that's the good news. So that's set to 71%. Okay. Don't think I have to do anything else to this. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Designer? Oh, interesting. Okay, that saves me a lot of hassle. So apparently it does retain the level adjustments, and it added it to a separate layer, which is nice. So I can actually just put it above everything and it's going to turn out perfect. Cool. Saves a lot of time. I do not like, however, the texture around this. So there's a couple ways to go about that. I could, I might end up cutting it out. Let's see here. Yeah. Let's do this back here. 71. This might actually be a time when selection brush might actually be good. I have to say I'm not overly fond of this brush. It's good for photography, but not necessarily digital drawing. Should be, let me just look this up here. I actually don't use Affinity Photo all that often. It's getting better, but not having a magic wand is actually a big kill point for me. It's kind of one of those standard tools that you actually need a lot. Okay, it is actually what I thought it would be. Okay. Rasterize to mask. Whoa. Let's go back to photo. Might actually... Yeah, let's try this. I'm going to group these, and then I'm going to try editing the group in photo. This may allow me to do what I was hoping. Okay. Nope. First, oh. Ah, that's wrong. Okay. I could tell just looking at this that that inverse is not correct. Okay, let's see if it's because I did the initial selection in Affinity Designer. Okay. Yeah, it's not sure why it does that. Okay, so I may have to actually export these in Photoshop because the inverse selection is not working. Like I said, it is actually something I've encountered a couple times, and I'm not sure why it does occur. Because normally this should actually just do it, but it's actually not. You can tell by the binding box it's not the correct selection. Let's actually try that though. Let's see here. Yeah, see, that's definitely not correct. Okay. Oh, there's a couple ways to do this. Could actually just manually do the selection, which at this point I'm leaning towards. Shouldn't have to do this though. That's the only thing. Okay, so that one's done correctly. It is, I have to admit, it is nice the fact that when you switch between the two, it keeps all the changes that you did. Okay. Yeah, see, I don't know. It looks, obviously it's more realistic like this. I'm gonna keep the option in this file for the mask, but I may not end up using it unless I'm doing some other branding later on. It's one of those things I want I want the fact that it's a real photo to show through, and I think hiding that texture actually does not help. Yeah, so I guess we're gonna stick with that then, which isn't too big of a deal. All right. Guys are wondering, I'm just finishing up the labeling for these. It's really important when you have a lot of layers to do that. Definitely missing at least one on there. Okay. Oh yeah, the werewolf one. Okay. Yeah, that's the one that you're not seeing yet. So the werewolf one is completed. I just don't have a photo of it yet because I have to do the finishing. The final ones will actually have a bit more of a sheen to it, and that's more of a protective coating. Just to make sure that they are not too absorbent, because they are coasters after all. But yeah, once I get those in, I may end up having to take new photos anyway, but this gives me at least a rough idea about my lighting and seeing if it works, so I can start setting it up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this update. Sorry there was a lot less drawing today. I am still working on that other background. I'm still working on doing the foreground and midground elements for it, just because they're going to require a lot more time to set up. Essentially, I want to do most of the basic shading at least, so that I can actually just focus on the fun paint work during the live streams, because it is a lot more interesting to look at than just watching me outline shadows. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. So thank you and take care.